Okay, so today I'm making robots take an idea I had in my brain and turn it into a real object that never existed. Welcome to Inhalants. So I really want to thank everyone for watching and for sharing the last video I put out. I can't believe the response. 40,000 views in one day is pretty crazy. I never expected that. Isn't that wild? 40,000 views. That's so crazy to me, especially because that totally didn't happen. Anyway, I'm really excited about finally starting this series. I've been brewing this idea for a while and stacking footage and working and planning and buying. So much buying, my God. This project has proved to be pretty expensive so far. To be honest, I'm getting a little emotional about it. This is definitely the most ambitious project I've taken on as far as like building. But it's really like brought to my attention, or at least illustrates what it is that I love about the creative process. It's the times that you have like a vision for an idea and then you can actually bring it into reality. That's probably my favorite feeling, whether it's like a song or a video or a live show, or even just like decorating my place or just cleaning it even. When you can have an idea and then later after working on it, it's actually a reality, that's one of the most beautiful experiences in life, I think. So back in August, when I started actually planning the execution of this project, I was trying to figure out where I was going to get the machining and fabrication done. I really want to get away from using hand tools for any of the body of this synth, because whether it's the longboards I was building back in high school or putting acoustic panels in our practice space, every project I've worked on has been built with hand tools and lazy planning. And people with good workmanship will tell you that the more time you spend planning, the less time you actually need to spend building. And it's always been a problem of mine to just try and get to the fun steps as quickly as possible, but the result is that I get more frustrated along the way and I get a worse product than I was expecting. So that's why for this, I actually decided to 3D model everything. So here's the enclosure. It's made of 12 or 13 total pieces, I think. In the next episode, I'll go into detail about actually what was going on in the design choices here, but basically it's made of 12 millimeter Baltic birch plywood because that's the best shit. So these are all the pieces. These are going to be cut out of one single board. CNC goes through and cuts this crap all out. So, okay, now that you understand that, let's watch these robot slaves of mine take what used to be a platonic form of the Lameboy in my brain and turn it into a real object. So in order to have that made, I decided to work with a CNC and a laser cutter to build the pieces of the enclosure. If you don't know what a CNC is, it stands for Computer Numerical Control, which, to be honest, really doesn't explain it. It basically means controlling power tools with a computer instead of with your hands. It's a robot. Basically, you put a piece of flat material like plywood or plastic or steel on a big table, and a robotic arm follows pre-programmed instructions and applies the tool to the material. There's a lot of advantages to this, but essentially it means you can get much more precise with the work than you could with your hands, and it saves a ton of time. On a CNC router as well, you can work in tolerances of like fractions of a millimeter. So that's how precise it'll get, which you could never really be able to do with your hands, or not reproducibly and not without a significant headache. The problem is that CNC work is pretty expensive to get done because it's usually companies like fabrication shops that are working with industrial or like aerospace clients in the case of the people that I had access to around me here in Denton. And because of that, the setup costs are really high because these companies, they don't want to be working on small one-off projects like this. I called around to a bunch of local places looking for laser cutter services, and then I found a local place called Global Waterjet. Brandon that owns that place gave me a bunch of insight into what I was really looking for, but still quoted me more than I was really comfortable paying for this tiny one-off project. But that turned out to be my only option, because most fabrication shops won't even entertain small orders at all, even if I could pay the setup costs. So I went in and then I said that I'm going to film everything for a video series that I'm doing. And if he waives his expedited fee and his setup cost, I'll give him the footage to use for his business. That meant that I found my shop, so that was pretty essential. They don't have a laser cutter, but it turns out that's actually not what I need. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandon just for a second so he can explain why I'm using a water jet, or at least what it is.
So the water jet technology uses a stream of hyper-pressurized water. This machine is 60,000 psi, and it basically is a hyper-erosive process. So we're using an extreme amount of water with extreme amount of pressure mixed with an aggregate to cut multiple materials, and it offers a non-heat affected zone, and that means that it does not distort the material with stress like from a plasma cutter or laser cutter. So we can cut anywhere from glass, paper, stone, ceramics, metals, pretty much any material at varying thicknesses, up from anywhere from 0.010 of an inch to 6 inches thick, and that varies with every material. So it is a very versatile machine. If you have multiple applications for multiple parts, this is really the machine for you. Whereas a laser or plasma cutter are specifically designed for metal. Some lasers can cut wood and stuff like that, so can the water jet. But since it is a hyper-erosive process, it's dictated by time. But it genuinely leaves a very close tolerance for all materials, so it can make it a very economical solution.
Pretty fucking cool if you ask me. Watching our logo get cut out of steel in that time lapse was extremely satisfying, to say the least. And these pieces in my hand feel really good. Next episode, we're going to look at the actual assembly of the enclosure, and I'm going to go over in detail the design choices in building it. So anyway, here's to another 40,000 views on this next one. Thanks to everybody who comments. Thanks for sharing the video, which nobody does, but you could do, because nobody is watching. So thank you. Follow us on Instagram and shit.